This week we bring you some interviews from the Huntsville Hamfest vendors and other well-known amateur radio operators. As we meet them and other updates, stay tuned. Hello and welcome to the Ham Radio Guy. If you like this podcast, hit that subscribe button in Apple Podcasts and follow me on Twitter for the latest updates. Today we visit with Project Development Kits with Phase Doc, and we have Chris here with Phase Doc, KQ4ABJ, and tell us a bit about what your project is.
Sure, we've developed we call it a project development kit.
Yes.
It's a way to accelerate projects that use Arduinos or Raspberry Pis, and essentially the way we describe it is, Marty, would you hold that for me for a second?
Okay.
We describe it as Legos for electronics, and what we do is we have these spiffy little adapters. They have fixed feet and they have spring feet, and once you mount your components on that, you can set it down into this base. It snaps in, that way you can arrange everything exactly right. It stays until you're ready to take it apart, and then that way you can wire the whole thing up, carry it around. We have a cover, snaps on. Now it goes right into the backpack, and then we've also added storage underneath.
Wow, that's a really slick and small kit. What are some of the examples that someone could build with these type of projects on these different projects boards using the Raspberry Pi, which is a pretty popular little tool for a lot of ham radio operators?
It sure is. There's a lot of software-defined radio out there, and so Raspberry Pi is great for a lot of things that require an actual computer, because that's really what it is. Arduino, being a microcontroller, is good for a lot of other projects like automation and that sort of thing. So those are kind of the two paths that we tell people exist in this kind of space.
Sure, so this is taking the Raspberry Pi and our Arduino system, combining them and making them a component to be, maybe you want to create an SDR radio or something like that.
Absolutely, right.
And is there displays with this as well that people can get readouts or information from on like a small screen? Is it part of the toolkit?
Well, really what we tell people is we're completely agnostic about the electronics that you bring. So whatever electronics you have, you can mount them. We've had people mount encoders and displays of all different kinds of sizes. I don't say that you can mount anything, but almost anything you can put on this system.
Sure, so if you wanted to have some type of readout showing your voltage or your time,
exactly,
your call sign, whatever it might be, you can produce that and get that type of screen coming out.
We actually have an example of that right here.
Now our viewers are not going to be able to see that, but
yep,
definitely
that's true.
Kind of give a small...
But just to describe it here, what we've got is an Arduino underneath, and then it's got a display with interactivity on it. These buttons are built in, so you can create a display very simple or much more complicated, like a TFT, something like that. Really, the sky's the limit on what you put in this system.
Okay, and you're simply running this little kit on a little 5,000 milliamp power bank and,
exactly,
and a USB, and you can set that display to say whatever you want it to say.
Absolutely. So right. This is completely portable right here. So it really just it frees you, whatever your imagination can come up with, we can pretty much make it happen here so that you can carry it around, take it out into the field with you.
So are these kits primarily designed for clubs to help teach people how to do electronics, or maybe even educational institutions, schools, things like that, to
Absolutely.
Get started in an electronics field, showing the basics of how it works?
Well, we tell people is we really have kind of three paths in our market. We've got makers and engineers, we've got STEM education, and then we got commercial industrial.
Okay.
And really a big push is on the educational side, either with the club level or in schools, anywhere from middle school up to entry-level university.
Sure, so this type of thing would probably be really good for some of the ham radio grants that are out there if people want to get into education and teaching either their members in the club or creating a STEM system, and getting into schools and teaching a little bit of education. This would probably qualify for some type of grant information because it is the education world.
Absolutely.
That we can push from that grant side.
Yep. We've actually developed some curriculum to help people teach principles of electricity, discrete electronics, and microcontrollers, so we can kind of help with that process as well.
That's awesome. That's good to know. And what does roughly a project board run or cost in that terms for if a person was just interested in saying, I'd like to be able to get in electronics, but I don't really know what I'm doing, and maybe something I could tinker and play with and look at purchasing and
Absolutely. So what we tell people is the best place to start is what we call our starter kit. Makes sense. And that includes a base and enough adapters to make a challenging, meaningful project like the one we have in front of us, which I know they can't see. But it's still, that's really the starting point, and that's right at $50 there.
Okay.
And so kind of goes up and down from there depending on what you want to add or take away.
So a very reasonable entry level,
We think
cost
so.
effective starter kit for sure.
We think so.
Okay,
Sure.
That's great. And how would someone find you, or where can they go get these type of devices and platforms?
Absolutely. So we're on the web. You can just Google Phase Dock, Phase, new word DOCK, and we're at phasedock.com. And if you will just Google us, you'll take it right there. We sell online. Everything we build is made in America. We design and manufacture it ourselves.
Okay. And if there if they need like any type of assistance or help with that, is this something you guys can reach out and support a little bit?
Absolutely. We're very, very responsive. We can actually not only offer technical support, but we've actually built some custom things. We've got a very active user community that designs components. We're open sourcing this as much as possible, so we're very interactive with our customers.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today, Chris, and thank you for giving us a little bit of education about the Phase Dock system. And hopefully we'll get some people to reach out to you and learn a little bit more about what you offer. So thank you for being here at Huntsville Hamfest today.
Appreciate you stopping in.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye now.
Again, this is Chris with Phase Dock here at Huntsville Hamfest. We appreciate it, and thank you for listening, and we'll move on to our news.
And from the news desk, the International Space Station upgrades amateur radio operations. The amateur radio in the International Space Stations can now do voice repeater and digital operation communications. The voice repeater, using a Kenwood TM-D710GA, is in the Columbus module, and APRS operations from identical radio in the Zvezda module, say that spelling, ZVEZDA. The packet operations are on 145.825. It uses the call sign of NA1SS, and the packet side is RS0ISS. The International Space Station is a cooperative venture of international amateur radio societies and space agencies that support the ISS. And of course, if you are part of AMSAT or doing any satellite operations, this is obviously a nice upgrade for those that partake in that. In other news, the ARRL welcomed the Director of Information Technology. His name is Steve Berry, N1EZ, to the new position of Director of Information Technology. And Steve comes to us from New Hampshire. He is responsible for the overall strategic and operational IT functions and continuous evaluation and execution of processes, systems, applications, infrastructure. And so welcome, Steve, to the ARRL, and hopefully that with websites and other things, that the upgrades that ARRL has done, that this will be a good step forward. Other things is amateur radio in the news during this time. Everybody's talking about the Maui ham radio operators worldwide communication exercise as one of the stories for the week. And then we also have the girl 8 years old chats with an astronaut on the amateur radio station. And then, of course, we still have the ARRL podcast schedule as well that you can always find on the ARRL website. And then a new book that has come out, the ARRL introduced the third edition of Get on the Air HF with Digital by Steve Ford, which is a very good book. and covers on how to set up and operate your own HF digital station. He makes this fairly easy, including using modes such as WS-JTX, Vera, and Jess 8 Call, which are all very popular. So that brings us to a conclusion for the news this week. A few Hamfest that were just ahead, or I'm sorry, not Hamfest, radio sport contest. Some of the things that we'll see is like the North American QSO party from August 20th to 21st, as well as some digital contests for like the AWL Rookie Roundup on the 21st and RTTY, and then the Run for the Bacon QRP contest using CW, and of course the big one that we always know of, the August 23rd, the Worldwide Sideband Activity Contest using phone. So those are your upcoming radio sport events, and that is all we have for this week. We want to thank you for joining the Ham Radio Podcast. We'll take a moment for a word from our sponsor.
Support for the Ham Radio Guy podcast is provided by Club Gear Online. They offer a unique selection of customizable items, including graphic design services and amateur radio apparel. They are the go-to company for our club, and anytime I'm looking for a new ham radio shirt, to support those who support the amateur radio community, visit clubgearonline.com today.